Sometimes in life, the line between being chosen and being used is so thin you don't even realize you've crossed it until you're standing in a place that feels heavy, drained, and confusing. You start out thinking you've been given a blessing, a new job, a relationship, a friendship, an opportunity. And at first, it feels good. You feel seen, appreciated, maybe even special. But somewhere along the way, something shifts. The excitement fades, the appreciation turns into expectation, and you begin to notice that the only time you're truly noticed is when you're needed. That's when the truth starts to whisper to you, maybe this wasn't about being chosen at all. Maybe this is about being used. It's easy to get caught up in the illusion of being wanted. Everyone wants to feel like they matter, like they've been selected for something meaningful. But the reality is that not everyone who chooses you values you. Some people choose you for what you can give them, not for who you are. They see your kindness as an opportunity, your reliability as a resource, your talent as a tool. They don't see your heart, they see your function. And when that happens, it's not your worth that's the problem, it's their intention. Yet the longer you stay in those spaces, the easier it becomes to mistake utility for love and usefulness for value. There's a reason people fall into that trap. It's because being needed can feel a lot like being loved. When people depend on you, when they call you first, when they turn to you in every crisis, it creates a sense of importance. You start believing that their dependence is proof of your significance. But being needed is not the same as being valued. Being needed can make you indispensable for a while, but it can also make you disposable the moment they find a replacement. Value is deeper. It's built on respect, reciprocity, and recognition. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. And when someone truly values you, they don't just take from you, they give back, they invest, they show up for you in return. Learning to tell the difference between being chosen and being used starts with self-awareness. You have to ask yourself tough questions. Are these people showing up for me or only showing up when they need something? Do I feel appreciated? Do I feel obligated? Am I being celebrated or drained? The answers might hurt, but clarity always comes with a little pain. The truth is, people who truly choose you will make you feel safe, supported, and respected. They'll challenge you, not exploit you. They care about how you're doing, not just about what you can do for them. But people who use you will disguise their needs as love, their control as care, and their expectations as loyalty. If you're not paying attention, you'll confuse emotional dependency with emotional connection. The danger in being used is that it doesn't always look negative at first. Sometimes it even feels rewarding. Helping others, giving, contributing, those are beautiful things. The problem comes when the giving becomes one-sided. When you're the only one showing up, when you're constantly carrying the weight, when you're always the solution, but never the priority, that's when the imbalance starts to eat away at you. You begin to lose your sense of self because you've made other people's needs your purpose. That's not purpose. That's self-neglect disguised as loyalty. One of the hardest lessons in life is realizing that your loyalty can become a weakness when it's given to the wrong people. It's not that you're too loyal. It's that you're loyal to those who never earned it. You can't fix people by loving them harder, and you can't prove your worth by overextending yourself. The people who deserve you will never make you beg for appreciation. They'll meet you halfway. They'll see your effort and match it. They'll honor your time, your energy, your boundaries. Because real relationships, personal or professional, are built on mutual value, not mutual need. The truth is, you teach people how to treat you. If you keep showing up for everyone at the expense of yourself, if you keep saying yes when your heart is tired, if you keep giving your best to those who give you their bare minimum, you're teaching them that your time and energy are limitless. But you're also teaching them that your boundaries don't exist. People don't stop using you out of guilt. They stop when you stop allowing it. That's why self-respect has to come before service. You can still be kind without being a doormat. You can still be helpful without being used. The goal isn't to harden your heart, it's to protect it. Part of protecting yourself means learning to separate attention from intention. Attention feels good. Compliments, praise, invitations, they all stroke the ego. But intention reveals character. Some people will give you attention to get access. They'll charm you, flatter you, and make you feel like you're the chosen one until you're no longer useful. When someone truly values you, their intention is consistent even when the benefit fades. They'll still be there when things aren't convenient. So pay attention to what happens when you have nothing to offer. That's when you see who's really there for you. If their presence disappears the moment your usefulness ends, that wasn't connection. That was transaction. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you stop needing to be chosen. You start choosing yourself. You stop chasing approval and start setting standards. You stop over-explaining and start observing. You begin to realize that peace is more important than presence, that having fewer people who truly value you is better than being surrounded by many who secretly drain you. Self-respect is the foundation of every healthy connection. Once you start respecting yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't serve you, life begins to align differently. You attract people who value you because you've finally shown the world how you expect to be treated. Sometimes walking away isn't about anger. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing that no amount of effort can make someone see your worth if they've already decided to ignore it. It's about understanding that you don't need to stay somewhere just to prove your loyalty. Staying in a situation where you're not valued doesn't make you loyal, it makes you lost. And the longer you stay, the more you forget what real appreciation feels like. Leaving isn't a failure. It's an act of self-preservation. It's choosing peace over exhaustion, dignity over desperation, and self-worth over self-sacrifice. There comes a time when you have to pause and look around at the people and environments you keep choosing. Are they growing with you or draining you? Every connection you hold on to either adds peace or takes it away, and if you're honest with yourself, you already know which it is. The difficult part is not knowing, it's accepting. Acceptance means acknowledging that someone you cared for may never have seen you the way you saw them, that a company you worked so hard for may never reward your dedication, that a friend who always calls when they're in need may never call just to ask how you're doing. These truths hurt, but they free you, because freedom begins the moment you stop confusing availability with value. The more you evolve, the more you start recognizing patterns that once looked like affection but were really dependency. You start noticing that some people only reach for you when their world is falling apart. You become their comfort zone, their safety net, their quiet solution to chaos. And at first you feel honored because being needed feels meaningful. But eventually you realize that always being the one who saves others keeps you from saving yourself. You end up carrying problems that aren't yours, fixing situations you didn't create, and apologizing for boundaries you should have set long ago. Growth means learning that it's okay to let people solve their own storms. It doesn't make you cold, it makes you conscious. You also start to understand that not everyone has bad intentions when they use you. Sometimes people use others because they're unaware, because they've grown accustomed to taking without giving. It's not always malicious, but it's still unhealthy. You can't control how people behave, but you can control how long you allow it. Compassion doesn't mean compliance. You can forgive someone for their behavior while still choosing not to participate in it. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're doors that decide who gets to stay. The moment you start enforcing them, the wrong people will leave and the right ones will respect you more. There's also another side to being used that people rarely talk about, the part where you use yourself. You convince yourself that if you keep working harder, if you keep giving more, if you keep showing up, then maybe people will finally see your worth. But that mindset will wear you down. You can't hustle your way into being valued. Worth is not earned through exhaustion. It's recognized through balance, respect, and mutual understanding. The truth is, if you have to perform endlessly just to be noticed, you're not being appreciated, you're being consumed. You'll notice that when you stop allowing yourself to be used, you'll lose a lot of people. Some will say you've changed, some will call you selfish, some will guilt trip you for doing what's best for you. But that's just proof that your growth is working. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always see your peace as a problem. Don't take it personally. Growth always costs you comfort. But every person you lose in the process makes room for someone who's meant to stay, someone who values your energy, not your effort alone. Another lesson that comes with experience is realizing that not every opportunity that chooses you is meant for you. Sometimes life tests your self-awareness by sending you offers that look golden but feel heavy. You might get the job that flatters your ego but crushes your joy. You might attract a partner who says all the right things but never truly shows up. You might find yourself in rooms that look impressive but drain your spirit. The older you get, the more you understand that being chosen by the wrong things can delay the right ones. You can't accept every invitation just because it flatters you. Some doors lead to detours, not destinations. The trick is learning to say no without guilt, because every no that protects your peace makes space for a yes that aligns with your purpose. When you stop confusing being chosen with being used, your standards shift. You no longer chase validation, you chase alignment. You don't need to prove yourself in every space. You start trusting that the right people will see your worth without explanation. You realize that value doesn't scream for attention. It commands respect quietly. You become more selective with your time because you understand that energy is currency. The more you spend it on what drains you, the less you have for what fulfills you. And that's when you begin to feel lighter. Your peace becomes your measure of success, not approval, not praise, not being needed. People sometimes think detachment means indifference, but it's actually self-mastery. Detachment is knowing you can care deeply without clinging. It's understanding that you can wish people well and still walk away. It's realizing that closure doesn't always come from conversations. Sometimes it comes from clarity. You don't have to wait for someone to admit they used you before you decide to heal. You can acknowledge what happened, learn from it, and move forward without bitterness. That's strength, not in how long you endure pain, but in how quickly you choose peace after it. Life has a way of rewarding those who finally learn the difference between being chosen and being used. Once you understand that your value is not dependent on someone else's recognition, you stop settling for roles that minimize you. You start seeking environments where your voice matters, where your presence adds something greater than convenience. You start prioritizing relationships that make you feel grounded, not guilty. And slowly, Your energy changes. You no longer attract users because you no longer operate like one. You've learned that true connections are mutual. They give as much as they receive. It's a liberating moment when you realize you don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to overgive to earn a place. You don't have to break yourself just to be understood. You can exist exactly as you are, whole, worthy, and complete, without constantly auditioning for acceptance. When you reach that level of self-understanding, you start seeing through manipulation like it's glass. Flattery doesn't move you anymore. You start reading intentions behind actions. You start feeling when energy isn't right. And the moment you sense that someone's connection is conditional, you quietly step back. That quietness is power. It's maturity. You no longer need to announce your boundaries, you simply live by them. Being used isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's subtle, like always being the listener but never being heard, like being praised in public but ignored in private, like being included only when it benefits someone else. The subtle ways people use you are often the hardest to spot because they hide behind politeness. But once you tune into how you feel, whether you feel uplifted or depleted, the truth becomes obvious. People who choose you will make you feel seen. People who use you will make you feel small. The body knows before the mind admits it. That heaviness you feel after certain interactions. That's your intuition telling you that something's off. Trust it. Intuition doesn't lie, it protects. Sometimes we romanticize being chosen because it validates the parts of us that once felt invisible. But the problem is, if you crave recognition more than respect, you'll accept attention from anyone who offers it. That's dangerous because users are drawn to those who need to be needed. They sense the desire for validation and use it to anchor control. The cure for that is self-love, the kind that doesn't need applause. When you love yourself enough, you stop trying to earn what should come naturally. You stop mistaking attention for appreciation. You stop confusing presence for partnership. And that's when you finally step into the kind of confidence that doesn't need to chase anything. When you reach a certain level of self-awareness, you start realizing that being chosen by the wrong people is not a compliment, it's a warning. Every time someone sees your strength and mistakes it for availability, every time they notice your empathy and treat it like an open invitation to unload their chaos, every time they recognize your ability and think it means you'll carry the whole team, that's life showing you the difference between recognition and respect. Recognition is noticing what you can do. Respect is valuing who you are while you do it. One flatters the ego, the other protects your soul. The more you learn that difference, the more selective you become about who gets access to you. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves it. Your energy is sacred, your time is non-refundable, and your peace is priceless. At first, setting those limits can feel lonely. You start saying no to things that once defined you, the endless favors, the late night problems, solving the emotional rescue missions. You start prioritizing rest over people, pleasing, quiet over chaos, clarity over confusion. And the world doesn't always clap for that kind of growth. Some people will call you distant. Some will say you've changed. And they'll be right, you have changed. You've stopped confusing kindness with compliance. You've stopped thinking you owe everyone an explanation. You've stopped letting guilt control your generosity. That's maturity, realizing that protecting your energy is not selfish. It's essential. The truth is, when you stop letting people use you, you force them to meet you at eye level. Those who truly value you will rise to match your boundaries. Those who only valued what you provided will fade away. It's not a loss, it's alignment. The people who leave your life when you stop overgiving were never staying for you, they were staying for the access. When you shut down that access, their purpose in your story ends. And as painful as that can be, it's also a blessing because every person who leaves makes space for peace. Every goodbye clears room for genuine connection. The universe doesn't take without reason. It clears so you can create. One of the most liberating realizations is that being used isn't just something others do to you. Sometimes it's something you allow because you fear being alone. You accept half-hearted love because you're afraid of emptiness. You say yes to extra work because you're scared of being seen as replaceable. You tolerate disrespect because confrontation feels uncomfortable. But every time you betray yourself to keep the peace, you lose a little more of your authenticity. Eventually, you look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the person staring back. Reclaiming yourself starts with honesty. You have to admit where you've traded your peace for approval. Only then can you start building a life that feels true to you again. Once you start honoring your own needs, your energy shifts. You stop chasing situations that require you to shrink. You stop tolerating conversations that drain you. You stop offering explanations to people committed to misunderstanding you. You learn that silence can be the strongest boundary of all. You begin to see that you don't owe anyone constant access to your thoughts, your time, or your emotions. The right people won't demand your exhaustion to prove your loyalty. They'll respect your boundaries because they've created their own. Mutual respect, that's what being truly chosen feels like. It's not one-sided, it's reciprocal, it's peaceful, and it grows without force. As you evolve, you'll notice another subtle shift. Your definition of success changes. You stop measuring it by how many people depend on you and start measuring it by how free you feel. You no longer equate business with importance. You begin to see that constantly being needed isn't a badge of honor. It's a sign that you're overextended. You start valuing quiet mornings, slow conversations, and honest relationships more than noise and recognition. You stop being addicted to being the hero and start appreciating being human. There's a deep kind of peace that comes with that awareness. The peace of no longer needing to prove yourself through service. You can still help, still care, still show up, but now it's by choice, not compulsion. There will be days when you miss the chaos, though, because comfort, even in unhealthy forms, has its pull. Being used can become a habit. You get used to being the fixer, the giver, the one who always has the answers. And when you stop doing that, you might feel empty for a while. But that emptiness isn't loss, it's space. Space for new habits, new boundaries, new balance. You start filling it with activities that feed your soul instead of drain it. You rediscover what makes you feel alive when no one's asking anything from you. And slowly, you realize that your value was never tied to what you could give. It was always tied to who you are when you're just being. It's important to understand that recognizing your worth doesn't mean cutting everyone off or becoming distant. It means being intentional. It means understanding that your time and energy are limited resources, and you have the right to decide where they go. It means realizing that not every situation deserves your full investment. Some people only need a fraction of your attention, not your entire being. It means you can still love people while keeping your peace intact. You can still help without losing yourself in the process. You can still be kind without being used. Balance is not cruelty, it's clarity. Over time, the people who are meant for you will adjust to your new boundaries. They'll learn that love doesn't require overextension. They'll meet you where you are without demanding that you become smaller for their comfort. They'll give you space to grow, to rest, to breathe. And in that space, you'll begin to thrive again. Because when you surround yourself with people who value you, your light shines differently. You stop dimming it for the sake of fitting in. You start living in alignment with your truth. And that truth radiates, it attracts opportunities, relationships, and experiences that reflect your self-worth back to you. Sometimes, the best thing you can do for yourself is to take a step back and observe your life as if you were watching someone else's story. If you saw someone constantly giving, constantly being overlooked, constantly used, what advice would you give them? Would you tell them to keep trying harder, and would you tell them they deserve better? That same compassion you'd offer someone else, give it to yourself. You don't have to keep proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. You don't have to keep explaining your boundaries to those who never respected them in the first place. Your energy is precious, and so is your peace. Protect both. The most beautiful part about finally learning the difference between being chosen and being used is that you start walking through life with calm confidence. You stop chasing, you start attracting. You stop performing, you start being. You don't need validation anymore because you found something stronger, self-respect. And self-respect has a quiet power to it. It doesn't shout, it doesn't beg, it doesn't explain, it simply exists. It's the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you move away from chaos without apology. People notice it. Some admire it, some resent it, but everyone feels it. That's what happens when you finally step into your worth.